G'day, 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 Aussie Gridiron fans. Welcome to the G'day Gridiron podcast, an NFL podcast brought to you by the Aussie Gridiron Network. We are back this week with another division to do a breakdown on. We're already through 4. This will be number 5. We'll have number 6 coming to you this week as well. We're nearly there. And that means, as of today, 1 month until the 2026 draft. Boys, we're almost there.
Can you believe it? It's around the corner, and we are going to be balls deep in draft stuff. Sorry.
Literally.
Jeez, Brad.
Are we?
Well, we will be. We will be. Of course, we will be balls deep into the 2026 Draft-a-Palooza in a few weeks, where we combine all of our mock drafts, which I'm sure we've all been busily working on up until this point right now. And we will pick one mock draft to rule them all for the official G'day Gridiron one. So we're always balls deep. Brad, Isaac, Nick, everybody is back this evening to preview what can only be termed as the greatest division in football. The NFC South.
Oh, God.
Always the most exciting division because no one ever wants to win it.
No one does.
They do everything they can to give it away, and then yet somebody always has to spoil it and win the division.
They do. Someone always has to spoil it and win the division, and someone has to come last in a division. The last couple of weeks have been pretty easy. We sort of say, where are we going to start? Let's just start at the bottom. Boys, the record for this division in 2025 was the Panthers on 8-9, the Bucks on 8-9, the Falcons on 8-9, and the New Orleans Saints on 6-11. This
division is the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like we'll start with the bottom, which is actually really good because I feel like we're starting with the team that has the most promise to actually succeed in this division, and in terms of succeed, I mean do better than what you did last season, and that is the New Orleans Saints, who went 6-11, and went on a bit of an improbable run through parts of last year. Once they finally, turns out they found a quarterback in Tyler Shuck, and went on a 4-game winning streak over none other than the Buccaneers and the Panthers, which really screwed up this entire division on the run home. And then, Jets and Titans, who were also Rams, obviously, in the NFL terms. But who wants to kick us off with New Orleans Saints tonight? I feel like I've practiced saying New Orleans. And I've said it different 3 times in a row. It's kind of like my, I don't know. It's like me and the Jags. I just can't say the word. Boys, who wants to kick this one off? And tell us a little. All right, go for it, Isaac.
I reckon this is, just being the division they're in, this is the best chance for a team to go from last to first in the division. And the way they showed some upside last year, they're going to be coming at the top of the division. Mind you, Tyler Shuck now is going to have some film, and we know how good NFL teams are at studying that film and getting schemes up to stop him doing what he does. I like the addition of Travis Etienne, or however we say his name now. So
HN.
What does that mean for Alvin Kamara? I mean, I could see him on the trade block. Not sure what you're going to get for him. I mean, you got to have a healthy Chris Olave as well. He's got to be there. So my assumption of the New Orleans Saints, they'll probably, I reckon they're the highest chance of going from last to first.
They picked up a couple of running backs, obviously, and not just Travis Etienne, but Ty Chandler as well from the Vikings. It kind of leaves Alvin Kamara out in the wilderness for me. He is still questionable. There is still an injury concern over Alvin Kamara. This could be the last season we see Alvin Kamara. Brad, the wide receiver room talking about balls deep, I feel like they really need to go balls deep into the draft for wide receivers.
Well, they've got a real number one in Chris Olave, but that's about it.
They got 9, 10s, and 11s after that, though.
Yeah, yeah, right. Exactly. I've never heard that before. That's good. They do. You know, I mean, yeah, Jawan Johnson, who he did all right. He got close to, I think he got like about 800 yards or so. And Rashid Shaheed, they had him for 9 games, and he had like 500 yards. But the current depth chart is Olave and a bunch of scrubs behind him. So they got to figure it out. The tight end as well, they're hurting, so they've done a lot of changes. They're trying to kind of rebuild on the fly, but you're right, that wide receiver room needs help. I still think the whole Chuck philosophy is not going to work long term. They had a lot of passing yards, but where they hurt was that run game. I don't think they were like 28th in the run game. And they've done a lot to try and improve that, but I don't know if it's going to be enough, bottom line. And, you and I like head coach, Kellen Moore. And, I think what he's done, he's got him on the right trajectory. It's just he's had so far to go. I just hope he can survive a little bit of the blowback because, first year you get some grace and that type of thing. But then the expectations start to turn. You're not the new guy anymore. People get kind of tired of it. So the heat's going to definitely get turned up a little bit this year. I don't think he's in any danger of losing his job, but If you're the Saints, do you keep feeding the offense through Shuck, or do you grab the best defender? I don't know. The fact is they've got like 8 draft picks so they've got a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a lot, but they do also need to fix up their defense as well. Their front four. By default was probably the best part of their defense last year. They had lost to Mario Davis. I know he was older, but he was still productive for them at linebacker. So he's now at the Jets next year. So they still do have a lot of holes to fill. I mean, look, compared to this time last year, I was sitting here saying that they'll be watching Texas football just to make sure how Arch Manning is tracking. But from where they've been with that, and their offensive line has improved. Obviously, like you guys have said, they still need some weapons, but they don't have a lot of cap room to play with either. And it showed in free agency that 112 million in dead cap. A lot of that has been through, obviously, for some reason they're still paying Derek Carr. I'm not sure how that works. But that's sort of chewing up a lot of their cap.
Everybody's paying Derek Carr.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, so they need another good year. Just going back to the draft, like Isaac said, best case is that they are that team that goes from worst to first. There aren't a lot of contenders this year. The other one that maybe comes to mind for me is Detroit, just because of how good their offense could be. So if they hit on the draft, they could certainly be that worst to first because the rest of the division is just in shambles. The worst case scenario is that obviously, you don't get the next step out of Tyler Shuck and he sort of gets found out. That probably means that they're drafting in the first round next year. But obviously, you don't want to be the worst team in the worst division because obviously it's a pretty bad look all round. I mean, it's an easy case to be able to rebuild and get to the next level. To be able to get back up into the top of the division, but it's a pretty bad look. Worst team in the worst division, but I think they're in a solid spot considering where the division's at. They are in a solid spot. They've just got, I'd say, out of all the teams in this division, they've probably got the most spots to probably fill. Like Carolina's pretty set in a lot of spots. Atlanta's pretty good offensively. They drafted defense last year. They'll do a bit more of that. And the Bucks probably a bit more on defense now. Their offense is still quite solid. So this is probably the team that still needs help on definitely both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they picked up Noah Fant, and people are touting him as a big upgrade. I'm just not a huge fan of him, and they gave him 2 years, which I think was a little bit of an overreach. But I think, but yeah, you hit it on the head when you said that their division's in play. So I'm saying best case they finish 9-8. They win the division, because Lord knows you can win it with a 9-8 record.
You can win it with an 8-9 record.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. So that's best case. Worst case is Shuck is just kind of doesn't really develop that much. The line's slightly better. You continue to see Kamara decline. So they're back there at that 4-5 win thing. So that's to me best case, worst case.
Yeah, for me, best case is probably they take a weapon for Tyler Shark at number 8. So they've probably got the best chance at getting the best wide receiver off the board there at pick 8. So there's potential for another weapon there. And then they go on and win the division. But again, NFL teams are so good at scheming up against quarterbacks. They've got film on, and they've got actual film on in the NFL that they scheme up some. And Tyler Shark is just what we thought he was going to be this year.
Yeah.
And they go 4-5 win.
Yeah, I think you guys summed up the best case, worst case for him. I can't do much more than that. Let's move on to the Atlanta Falcons, a team that started off this whole section with a full rebuild, firing coach Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot. Now they're back. They've got Matt Ryan as president of football.
Yeah.
And hired themselves a whole bunch of new coaches and tried to fix everything that's been going on with that team. Re-signed quite a few of their own guys. A lot of the I guess you could say the talent that was on the team from last year, if you could really call that, on a team that was 8-9. And then acquired Tua Tagovailoa to complete the left-handed quarterback room double. And apart from that, it's a lot of guys, I think, that show promise but haven't, that really need to have a new home or find their feet in a new coaching style. They did show some bits and pieces towards the end of last season, but a lot of that seemed to be after Penix got hurt and Kirk Cousins took over. He took them, I think it was down 4 wins towards the end of the season, which put him in contention at one point for the actual title in NFC South. But they ended up falling short by points, essentially, and win-loss records. So the Atlanta Falcons, another weird bunch. They've made some interesting moves. Brad, I'm not really sure how to really sum up more than that on my end. How are you seeing the Atlanta Falcons?
Yeah, it's a brand new regime, but they're trying to rebuild with the same personnel, the old personnel. So you're in a tricky spot, really. And they were up and down the field, up and down in terms of yardage, but they just could not punch it in. So they had no problem getting yardage, but they couldn't execute in that red zone. It'll be interesting to see, just with the new coaching changes and what have you, what they decide to do. Stefanski is not an idiot by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's a good coach. So it'll be interesting to see how they just institute some cultural shifts in there. They have the weapons. Everybody knows that, but that defense is kind of suspect, and can they shore that up? And they've tried to. They really drafted that way, and everybody saw they were so aggressive last year when they gave up a first just to move back into the end of the first. The Rams are saying thank you very much for that. But I just don't know if it's paid off. So hence the new regime change and that type of thing. The quarterback situation it makes for good soap opera. You know, what's going to happen there? You know, can Penix come back, be a full-time starter? They got good pieces. The running back is amazing. The wide receiver room is amazing. The offensive line is decent. You know, so they on paper they're good enough to flirt with the playoffs. They just didn't put it together. To me, I'm just because I'm being positive about them. I think they're one of those sneaky teams that could potentially get up into that 10-win stratosphere.
Agree, 100% agree.
Okay.
Just because of the potential that they've got on offense, their defense had improved last year. They went from absolutely atrocious to, I'd say, suboptimal, which is an improvement from being the worst to, you know, almost average. I think that they've definitely had the upgrade with Stefanski over Raheem Morris in terms of what they'll get out of utilization with their guys offensively. Bold prediction of mine is that the potential first ever non-QB to win MVP in Bijan Robinson, just because of how good Stefanski is in the run game, and
Yeah.
he has never had a guy that can run the ball as well as his system will allow him. Plus, on top of that, the receiving part of it, and we already know that Bijan's such a focal point of their offense. So he. I know a lot of people are saying, a bit of fantasy talk, but Jahmyr Gibbs is the 1.1 after the Monty move. I still think it would be Bijan, but what they have at QB, like Brad said, it's a bit weird. It's the fancy. Probably the downside to what he's had is he can build an offensive line, and he can get the run game going. But more so, what he gets out of his quarterbacks, like he's been able to do well with the more veteran quarterbacks. So when Baker was a little bit older, definitely Joe Flacco. He's had the carousel in Cleveland, whatever the hell that was. So how he goes with these sort of younger QB in the guy that still needs that development, hasn't quite reached that potential that they thought he would in Michael Penix. It's really interesting to see how it'll go. It may be a case that he prefers the veteran presence in Tua, and he might be able to think, well, we can keep him upright and he's not leaning with his head, sliding, to get a first down or whatever. They may be able to get him back to what he was a few years ago, where he was leading the league in passing. So I think the QB competition will be healthy for them, and I think that's what's going to drive this offense just to be, that sort of full potential that we've thought for the last sort of couple of years of, they're really going to take off and they're just going to be outright number one offense in the league.
I agree with you, Nick, where I like Stefanski as a coach, but where I really think they've lost a bit is in the wide receiver room. So Darnell Mooney went to the Giants. I mean, he's a big loss for when Drake London gets injured. So when Drake London got injured last year, Darnell Mooney stepped up. So their wide receiver 2 at the moment is Joanne Dotson. So that's really a downgrade there. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do on offense. I like how they've brought in Tua, because he's a left-handed quarterback, the same as Michael Penix. So the offense isn't going to change much if there is an injury, or if, say, they decide to sit Penix because he's not playing that well and bring in Tua. So, I mean, again, like last year, I'm a bit like a bleh on the Falcons. I don't think they're going to do much, and I don't see where they're going.
It's to me, it seems like the Falcons are always that, oh, this is their year, or maybe this is their year type team. Yeah, but they never just they never come out and do it.
Yeah, another one to watch, actually, thinking of Stefanski, is probably Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
he did like a tight end in Cleveland. Yep. So he'll be one to watch on the offense going forward to see what he can scheme up for Pitts to get going.
Well, and they brought in Austin Hooper as well. So apparently they're going to go a lot more 2 tight end sets. So I like what Nick said. I think it'll be really interesting just to see how they implement the run game and how creative they get.
Yeah.
I like the coaching changes they made too, Brad. That Stefanski sort of retain that. There's older guys, more experienced guys, and he's given a few younger guys a bit of a shot. They retained Ulbrich as their defensive coordinator, which I think is a great idea because, as you guys said, the defense was it was pretty decent last year. They were better than expected.
Better than the year before. Yeah.
Yeah. And they made a lot of moves within last year's draft. Most of those moves where they traded up were all defensive moves. So they sort of really built there. And I love Kevin Stefanski bringing in Bill Callahan as the offensive line coach as well. Because, as you said, Brad, he is Stefanski will sort of make that O-line a little bit better. And then you bring in Bill Callahan, who's such a amazing guy on offensive line. He's known for that as a coach. And just, I think just try and change that offense and figure out how they can unlock maybe what Michael Penix has. And if not, and some of these other guys as well that have, like your Kyle Pittses and your Londons, etc., who haven't really succeeded as much as they should have. Righto. Cool. Where are we at now? It is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Woohoo!
Hells
Yep.
yeah.
Go on, Ian. Your turn. Go on.
Not my turn. I'm not going to say too much.
But
I'm just here for looks. Tampa Bay Buccaneers finished the season 8-9. Within the first 10 weeks of the season, they went on. They were 8 wins. I think it was 6 wins, 4 losses within the first 10 weeks of the season. They started out on one hell of a tear. The only losses they had were against the Eagles and the Lions, and eventually the Super Bowl Patriots, Super Bowl contender Patriots. So they were doing really well. And then something happened. We saw an injury to Baker Mayfield, and then the arse just fell out of this team. Something weird happened to them mid-season. Despite getting guys like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin back, things just did not click. Nothing seemed to work. They were still scoring points. They were still that exciting offense that we expected to see last season out of Mayfield and Evans and the Bucs in general, but something just wasn't working. In my opinion, they should have moved on in coaching. They should have reset this, but they didn't. Todd Bowles is back. That seems to have lost them. Mike Evans now, who's ended up as a 49er, and now we're sort of in this mode of they have some really good receivers. Is it going to work enough? Is stuff going to get together? Are the players going to still take up? Or are we going to see Todd Bowles be the first coach gone this year, mid-season? That's my bold call. Is if the Bucs don't start winning early season, I think by week 7 or 8 we'll see Todd Bowles out the door.
Wow. Okay.
We're already into bold calls and we're only doing division breakdowns. Look at us go, boys.
Yeah, exactly. That is a bold call. I feel like Tampa is that team where, have you guys ever been like it's Monday morning or whatever, and you're trying to figure out what you wear, and you realize all I've got is a bunch of dirty clothes, and you're sniffing the clothes looking for the cleanest one out of all the dirty pile. I feel like that's kind of Tampa Bay, they're just the least dirty of them all. So I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but I'm sticking with it. Yeah, I like the sad thing. I feel bad for Baker because he's getting another offensive coordinator this year. And I just feel like that guy just can't catch a break. So I like Zach Robinson. He's coming over from Atlanta. He did some really creative things when he was with Atlanta. So I like that. Hopefully Baker's proven that he can really do it with anybody. But losing Evans is going to hurt. But I think also just on defense, man, they got pumped. They just got everybody just walked. Not only do you lose Mike Evans, but you also lost Rashad White on offense, but then you lose Jamal Dean, Logan Hall, Christian Ince. So you lose all these guys that are, key cogs with that defense. So I really see that defense regressing, which, to Ian's point, could kind of lead to the downfall. So your wide receiver room is still good. Like a lot of teams, like Carolina would love to have that wide receiver room. So
Emeka Egbuka.
yeah, and so it's good. But I agree with you. They could win the division. Yeah, no problem. They could also completely implode and finish, with 6 wins. So I don't know.
Isaac, all through February and March, when it was when we got to free agency time, I felt like the Bucks were kind of like, that meme where you've got like the guy just poking something with a stick, and you're like, "Come on, do something."
Yeah.
I feel like that was me with the Bucks the whole time. It was like, do something, because we just, as Brad says, we kept seeing them lose players, and then nothing else was happening. Oh, hang on, they signed Jake Browning as the backup QB,
or Kenneth Gainwell as the backup running back.
These real needle movers.
Yeah. I think it's more along the lines of what you're saying, Ian. I think they're not gonna do too well to start. Todd Bowles will come in, will get sacked, and he may be the first one gone. I'm not, as Brad said, I'm really high on their wide receiver room, but nothing else. Like Baker will be Baker. Baker, I don't know if he was playing injured last year as well, but I think their defense is really going to struggle. I think that Mike Evans loss, I found him to be heart and soul of that team, along with Baker, and he's walked. So, I don't see him going too well. They'll probably finish last in the division, to be honest.
I was heading in that same direction.
Yeah, and just going back to Brad's point, I keep my clean clothes in my drawers, so I know if I go there, I don't need to sniff them.
No, clean clothes go in the clean basket. The dirty clothes go in the dirty basket.
They go on the chair. With the chair in the corner.
floor is for the floor is for the stuff that's in between. Now the chair's the cuck chair, mate. That's
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Please stop.
Fuck me.
We know where Ian's gone.
Oh, we can tell. This is what happens when it's night time, where it just my brain just goes.
We just go to the cuck chair.
Nick, can you lead us with a bit of a best case, worst case for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Geez, best case. Best case would be that they find a way to put it all together. I think we've pretty much all hit the nail on the head in regards to Todd Bowles and this team. They don't have the buy-in. When you lose that buy-in, it's very hard to come back from as a coach, especially if you've been there for quite some time. I remember when we had signed Mike Evans, pretty much like the stories came out that they were offering more money, but he still chose to sign with us. So that was the most eyebrow-raising thing. So best case is that they could still keep it together. Baker has the first half of the year before a full season, so he's on that MVP trajectory, and that's probably what they're going to need to probably win this division, at least. As each team will get at least, you'd think, a little bit better. Worst case is that the floor really falls out on them. They're bottom of this division, and probably this time next year, they're probably got a new coach. But hopefully at that time, if they do get a new coach, it's probably someone like a Sean McDermott that can maybe steer the ship, come in, an organisation that, the last sort of 7 years has been ran quite well. Obviously since they've got Brady, and obviously post that, they've been able to be managing to win divisions. So maybe Sean McDermott this time next year, we're talking about how the Bucks look differently and maybe their defense is a bit better.
Anyone want to add to that? Because that's actually pretty good.
That was comprehensive.
That was a comprehensive best case, worst case.
There's nothing to add.
I will guarantee you, boys, this will be the first year in I think three or four where I will not pick the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win the NFC South in our predictions.
Whoa!
Ooh, wow! End of an era.
It's not gonna.
We've said some bold predictions on this one, but that is the boldest.
Mind you, I am committed to going through every game and picking them game by game and just running with whatever comes out from that point. I have had some pretty weird predictions because of that, so I'll have to see. If it comes out with the Bucks winning the division, I am going to have to go back and rethink what I'm doing. Because I don't believe it this year. I don't believe it. Best case for me is a winning season. That's it, period. Because they didn't even have that this year. All right, let's move on to the NFC South 2025 champions. Super Bowl winning? No, that didn't happen, did it, Isaac? Carolina Panthers.
Not this year. J-Lo and Ben State are still split.
They're still split. It is the 8-9 Carolina Panthers who win the division thanks to team records, basically, and division records and conference records and a whole bunch of tie-break scenarios that it came down to, and it came down to the win over the Bucks in week 16 that got them over that line, essentially, and the Bucks losing the Bucks losing another game somewhere along the line. Anyway, they got there in the end. They got the title, but they didn't really move the needle when it came to playoffs. This team struggled, Brad, really early on. Despite a couple of wins, they were still like very heavy struggles to even look good and complete as a team. I guess we saw a little bit of progression from Bryce Young. It feels like he changed the way he wanted to play, or he approached the game, and that really got them dividends. But it kind of, they lost it. Like the Bucks, they lost their way mid-season, and it just didn't come together.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it's usually when we talk about division winners, it tends to be you won your division, we'll speak to you in a rather glowing way. But not this division, and not these Carolina Panthers. So they managed to finish 27th in scoring at 18 points a game and had a negative 69 point differential. So, and yet they still won the division. That shows you how bad that division is. But hats off to Carolina in the sense of they only had 30 sacks all year, 28th in the sacks for the league, and they went out and they spent money to try and help them. They give Jalen Phillips, they massively overpay him, but I mean it's the market, so they give him 4 years, $120 million. And the reason I say overpay is because the dude was good, but I don't think he was that good. But he was one of the best edge rushers around, and he was still young, so they pay him. They also get Devin Lloyd. So I love what they did from that standpoint at free agency. They acknowledged the fact that, you know, they got some mold behind the walls, and they just ripped it apart and said, we're going to rebuild this and put up some new sheetrock. So I like Phillips. I love Lloyd. And of course, I think, to your point earlier, now that they've got Kenny Pickett as their backup quarterback, they are going to win the Super Bowl. So I love also, I think they got Luke Fortner, center. He only gave up 3 sacks last year. It's going to be huge, I think, for Bryce Young. And if Bryce can just take another just incremental step, it doesn't have to be this huge jump, but just another step, then I think they're probably them in Atlanta, I could see as the most likely to be battling out for this division.
Yeah, I've got a few interesting things to watch on the Panthers this year. I mean, how big of a loss is Rico Dowdle going to be? Like through mid-season last year, he carried that. He had a couple of 200-yard games in there.
Yep.
So, and eventually got him over the line. And then another one in the same running back room. We haven't seen Jonathan Brooks, who was a top 10 pick 2 years ago, running back coming out of Texas. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does because he's still young. He's coming off a new Rico though, so it's going to be interesting there. And as Brad mentioned, the incremental steps of this offense. So Bryce Young, Tetero McMillan, and then the wide receiving core there. So it's going to be a good one. Like they made steps last year. Like Jalen Coker was good. Xavier Leggett had his games where he was decent. He had his bad games as well. So they're probably lacking a bit at tight end, which they could probably hopefully go to the draft and maybe pick something up there. So for the offense, I think that's all they really need to do if they keep making those steps forward. And as Brad said again, they've improved on defense, so they're shoring up the things that they need to. And I could see him going back to back here.
Yeah, not the worst shout. I mean, considering what the rest of the division looks like, I'm a bit more towards the side of Isaac, a bit more optimistic. I think when you go from a team that's really been struggling in how long, even if it is the worst division, to be able to go and actually win it, bit of playoff exposure, almost won that game as well. So it's not like they were blown out in that wild card game where it was just like they lost 30-12 or something. You know, they were very much in that game. A lot of it does hinge on obviously what they go into doing next year. You know, is Bryce able to take that next step? You can see he's more confident in the pocket. He can move, he can navigate his way around a lot better than what he was doing, you know, even last year, or even earlier in the season. So I really wonder what's sort of the next step for Carolina. Like, can they be a team that now, you know, they won 8 games, can they go into that sort of double-digit territory? You know, if Atlanta picks up their stride and they were able to finally get their shit together, you know, are they able to compete with them, or do they just sort of get back into the middle of the pack in this division? Yeah, I think the Jalen Phillips one, I get that they're not paying anyone at the moment, but it's a lot of money for a guy that, yeah, was all right when he went to Philly, but I don't know if he's that sort of out-and-out number one guy that you'd pay that much for, but, you know, it is a positive in a way. Yeah, their free agency was a bit weird. I'm not sure if they're sort of fully committed into maximising their cap whilst they've got Bryce on sort of, or they're sort of not paying him, obviously, with the number one pick contract, but I don't know. They don't sort of feel like completely in or completely out. They're sort of in this weird sort of middle ground, this no man's land. So it's going to be interesting. It definitely hinges on this year. So you're going to see it. So I think they're going to get to a stage where they'll be like, right, well, Dave can say, right, you know, this is a game that's going to be on you. You know, we've got to see these next steps. We've got to be able to put the game on your shoulders, and you've got to pull through. So they really need that clarity to be able to go from, you know, next season onwards.
Yeah, I think a big one is Aquanu, their left tackle, because he like ripped his tricep or something. If he's out for a bulk, that could really set him back a bulk amount of time. So it'd be interesting to see how they address that and how he comes back. Because like what we've all said, I like what they're doing. It's just, is it enough? And in this division, you just don't know.
You don't know. Understood. And what else we say about the NFC South?
I think we said it.
We have said it all. And so, well done, boys. Well done. 38 minutes on the NFC South. I didn't think we could do it. I didn't think it was possible. Once again,
the most mediocre division in all of professional sports.
Ooh, mediocre. Easy. That's giving them a lick.
That's a compliment.
It's a compliment. Now, boys, we have the NFC East coming up later this week. But since I think we're probably going to spend a bit more time talking about the NFC East in that one, I want to flip a coin. And I want to flip a coin because we need to figure out next week we're going to do a double episode as well. And we have the AFC East and the AFC South left after we do this NFC East one this week. So the AFC side of these two, I don't know how that's worked out that we've managed to do all these this way, considering we're doing random picks, and this is how this has ended up. So I'm going to flip this coin now, just so that we can figure out which one of those we're going to do first. Are we going to finish with the AFC East and the Buffalo Bills and the Patriots and then the shit show that is the Dolphins and Jets? Or are we going to finish with the NFC South, which could, technically a couple of years ago, was one of also the most mediocre divisions along with this NFC South. Heads, East, tails, South for the AFC. Let's go.
It's evens for Condor.
It's South.
South first again.
South is first again. How has this worked? This is everything to do with this has been completely random by random generators online, and somehow we've managed to do NFC AFC, and I just don't know how it's happening.
Bullshit. They're listening.
Yeah.
Actually, if you are listening, can you give us a 5-star review, please?
Yes. Well done, Isaac. Well done.
Thank you.
Do that. Everybody that is listening, please give us a 5-star review.
And buy a T-shirt.
iTunes, Spotify, review. Do that. That'd be awesome. We do need to see if we can pop up the listens to everybody. Can everyone go to YouTube, please, and just like the YouTube video or the podcast version of it, just so I can feel better and know that people are actually listening out there and interacting with what's going on. You will find everything at G'day Gridiron or Linktree/Aussie Gridiron Network. We will be back later in the week with the NFC East breakdown, and we may actually be back with some semblance, some kind of a news podcast. A news half-hour. I believe Taylor wants to jump onto a podcast with us because he's itching to get back behind the mic. So we might have a bit of news later in the week. Anyway, listen out everywhere for that, and we will see you later.